So today I want to go over some very important fire starting methods. This is basically in the event of maybe there's power outages, maybe there's a zombie apocalypse, or who knows, whatever's going on. Maybe survival situations of some sort. A lot of people just get lost hiking in the mountains. So you definitely want to have some survival items on hand for such an occurrence. It's a good idea to always have survival items. Now, the primary elements of survival is shelter. You definitely want to have a roof over your head of some sort, lean-to, a tent. Other videos can show you how to make those things out in basically the middle of nowhere if you need to. You need water. That's very important. You'll need fire. That's my number 3 item, is fire. And 4th most important item is food. Clothing follows that. We're assuming you're clothed in these situations. Very few people are running around in survival situations naked, but it's probably happened. Anyhow, let's assume that's not the case. And you need food, shelter, fire, and water. So food is important because if you have food that's ready to eat, you can just eat it cold and you're fine. If you want to just heat up some beans or a little stew of some sort, or whatever you happen to get, you're going to need some fire. So otherwise you're eating cold food all the time. And a warm meal can make a big difference in a survival situation, a very big deal. And same with water. Water, if you find water out in nature, you're either going to need to use Purification Tablets, which are so-so, and not always the best. And usually they work better once the water's warm anyway. They dissolve better. If you don't want to catch some of the bacterial problems that you'll get from drinking water out of streams, creeks, bogs, wherever, you're going to need to filter it and boil it. At the very least, boil it. Filtering's easy. You can run it from one container to another with a piece of cotton cloth that'll seep over and drip into the other container, eliminating all the dirt and debris and grossness. But you still need to boil that water before you drink it, or you get sick. So, especially if you're cooking and you need to rehydrate food, you need to boil that water. So fire is very important. So you'll definitely want to have at least a couple of different ways of making fire with you. And eventually you're going to be probably dwindled down to just one of those, because it's simple. Lighters, you can take a little Zippo lighter like this, or Bic lighters. Those are great. They last only as long as the fuel lasts. That's just the nature of lighters. And then they're disposable lighters typically. These become disposable once the fluid's gone. You can't really do much with it. You can spark with it, at least until that little tiny flint runs out. So you can still probably ignite char cloth with it. I've never tried, and I'm not going to bother today. But lighters will last you a little while. The little disposable Bic lighters, they'll last. You might get a couple of good months out of one of those. If you're lighting fires every day with it, it's going to go quick. And so you might want to keep at least a small package of those, 5 or 6 of them. That's a very good survival tool right there. Very, very convenient. Another thing you might want to do is a ferro rod. Now, I buy these ferro rods, such as this, little packages of them. And I buy packages of antlers, little antler tips. And those come in various sizes. I'll make these. Now, these are little ferro rods with an antler handle. I just drill it out and glue it in there. Nice little handle to hold it, and you strike it by scraping the back of your knife or some other piece of metal. And it doesn't even have to be high carbon steel. Just about any metal you can scrape. This is the part that sparks, okay? And that's what you need to know. So you can scrape this into your fire bundle and it'll spark and light a fire. Ferro rods are good, but they have a lifespan. It's a little stick. Some are thicker, some are thinner. But you'll wear that through. You'll pencil tip it eventually, or you'll saddle it by scraping it all out through the middle. Eventually you're left with nothing but a little tiny bit on the end. You're not going to be able to really get much out of that. The only thing you could maybe do is find more ferro rods, but These will last you a while. I'm not gonna lie. These are definitely, ferro rod will get you quite a few fires started, but there's a lifespan to them. They're not gonna last forever. You know, and I like to keep a little pouch for my fire bundle. You can put all of your bird's nest in here. We'll talk about that. All of your fire making materials can fit right in a little pouch of some sort. And you don't need a fancy leather pouch. It's not important. You can use, for instance, your little soap box. Maybe it's zombie apocalypse and you're running around scrounging trying to find anything to keep items in, little containers. Little soap box is great for a couple of reasons. You can keep your flint and steel in it, and your other fire bundle materials all fit right in a little soap box, little paper box. It's not fancy, but it holds everything you need it to hold. You might find things like cans. You know, you might find a can or a Tupperware containers. You can find these things. You know, zombie apocalypse. Nobody's using anything in their kitchen anymore apparently because they're all dead. So you could pretty much get any kind of containers you need. But at the very least, you know, you'll find a little box carton of some sort. These I mention also because they're a lot like these, little toilet paper tube. Everybody knows what a toilet paper tube is. Now it's pinched in on the ends, right? What I did here? Well, this is a very, very good idea because you will want to take your dryer lint, and you know, the zombie apocalypse, you're always going to be able to go in any bathroom anywhere, find a toilet paper tube in a trash can, and any washroom, laundromat, anybody's laundry in their house, their homes, apartments, they will always have dryer lint. This stuff is some of the most flammable and combustible material you can find. And you just pinch it in a little carton like that. You can make a dozen of these and carry them around. They don't weigh anything. And they're great for starting fires, small or big. So we're going to try this as a fire bundle and part of the bird's nest. And we're going to see if it works. I don't know if it will. I've not tried that yet. So, you know, basically that brings me around to the most important fire starting tool is a flint. This flint and this steel right here, these will probably light more fires than the ferro rod and the Bic lighter combined. In fact, you'll probably never really wear this out. You could probably get a lifetime out of one of these. I always think it's a good idea to have at least two of these on hand. One to keep in your home base location. If you don't have a home base location, you can keep one in your pack, one maybe tied around your neck or in a pocket. So you always have at least one in case you lose an item. Flints, these come from nature. Alright, I buy mine. These are the type of flints that they sell for musket rifles. You know, it's nice because it's a little square. You can get a pack of 6 for like $8 or $10. And you know, they're great. They're already kind of chipped and the right size and everything. They're easy to carry. You can put them in a flint wallet and put this in there with it. Everything's good. But yeah, you definitely can find flint out in nature. And there's other sharp type of rocks. Obsidian sometimes will work. Some other things out there you can spark your flint or your steel against. It'll work. I mean, you hit it and it sparks. So I'll show you how we're going to light a fire with this now. So the ferro rod is my second best choice. Lighter is my third best. I suggest carrying all three of those kind of things if you can, because you'll always have at least some means of making fire. But certainly, if you only had one choice in the whole world, a Flint Striker is the way to go. Now let's take a look at what makes this work. Okay, what I've made here is a small jar to store my char cloth in. And you can see it's basically just some cloth. Now this is some pieces of a cut up wick from a hurricane lamp. It's already a long strip of cotton fabric. You just cut it into squares, and when you char it, you have perfect size char cloths for putting over top of your flint. So you'll take your char cloth, you can place it over top of the flint about like that, right up to the edge there. It's perfect. I'm going to pinch it there, hold it, and you get a little, see that? See that glow? That's your char cloth. Now once this starts burning like this, you got a good 30 seconds, a minute maybe, and you can put this inside of your bird's nest to help start a fire. Now we're going to go try that here in a second, but first let me show you how to make some of this stuff. Okay, so as I mentioned before, this is a piece of wick for a hurricane lamp. You know, little things, you can buy these. Just get them at Walmart or Hobby Lobby. And you cut these into squares, okay? Just like that. Get a good pile of them. Get as many of these as you can if you find them. You may want to use these for your hurricane lamp if you're fortunate enough to be in possession of a hurricane lamp at the time of the apocalypse. And you happen to have some lamp oil. Okay. So these will be great. What we'll do is we're going to take a can. Now this is just a basic little paint can. It's a small size. You can get the size like this, like you use for stain. One of these. You empty out the stain, of course. Probably clean it out as best you can because it'll burn. You might even run it through the fire and burn it out. Is a good idea. But then what you do is you take your can and you punch a hole in the top. All right. Punch a hole in the bottom and the top. And then add your pieces of cloth. Now we're not done. We're going to also try some jeans. Okay? These are an old pair of jeans. I don't really need jeans with a hole that big in them. I'm not going to try to patch that or repair it. You know, survival situation, you probably want to try to repair it, but jeans are actually a really awesome survival tool. People don't realize the number of things you can do with a pair of jeans. Now, if you see here, you could cut the legs off, you know, like right across here, and stitch that up and make a little pouch. You could put a piece of rope or something through the belt loops and make a little drawstring pouch. That makes a little bag you can carry and tote things around. Or you can even stitch up to wherever the holes are and make really long pouches, I guess. Funny looking pant pouch. You can cut the pockets out, make little pouches out of this, little soft drawstring pouches. You can keep your Flint Striker in Flint with something like that, and then wear it around your neck maybe. Tie it on a cord so it's not rubbing against you, you know, something like that would be nice. Or you could keep cotton balls or something else in there, or lint, anything, you know, the pockets. You could actually, if for some reason the front of the pants was too damaged, but you had a pocket or two on the back, you just cut out around here and you got a ready-made pouch. So you could have a few of these, you know, and tie little drawstrings through them, wear those around your neck, or put them in your backpack or whatever. You can cut off the pant legs, like right about there, you know, and stitch up the bottom. You got a nice water bottle holder. Put 1 or 2 water bottles in something like this. Put a drawstring around it, stitch it over, or thread it through, make a drawstring pouch. So you can make a couple of pouches out of the pant legs. So you could make somewhere between 5 and 6 different pouches out of one pair of jeans. But what we're going to do with this pair today is try making a little bit of char cloth. And it's just, I'm not going to get too fancy about it here. It's just a pair of jeans. I'm not needing pouches at the moment. So let's try and cut up some of this denim and see what kind of char cloth we get out of it. I've heard of this being done. I've never made char cloth out of jeans before, so this will be a first. Okay. Not going to use a lot of it. I'll use the rest of it maybe later if this works out well. Probably going to cut the seam off because that's a little bulky, may not catch as easily. Now let's try cutting it into some strips about the same size as those lamp wicks. Hey, these are great. I'm going to cut little squares. I might lose a little bit of this to shrinkage, but you know, we got a good pair of jeans. You don't have as much loss here as you do with the lamp wicks. You know, those, you only get about 8 or 10 pieces out of that. So, you know, let's add these. I'm going to make a bunch of these, and and then we will add them to the can as well. We'll get ready to char them, and I'll show you how that's done here. Okay, so the nice thing about denim or any fabrics made out of cotton, things that come to mind are maybe aprons, like a kitchen apron, or the cotton towels that you might find in a kitchen. The hot pads that you can use for picking up hot pans. Those are actually good for when you're cooking outdoors too, so you may not want to cut those all up. But if you have one that's got some burns on it or it's worn through or whatever, cut that up into squares. It'll burn. You could probably char it into some nice little fluffy pieces. And you can find fabric, shirts, jeans, underwear for some reason, just about any weird old hiking trail you go on. I don't know how many times I'm outside looking for a spot to fish, and wherever I park, sometimes I find articles of clothing just laying there that have been there for months, discarded, lost, forgotten, whatever. Drunk kids out messing around, throw their clothes and lose them. But, during a zombie apocalypse time, finding clothing is going to be pretty easy. It's going to be strewn about just about everywhere. I go inside of abandoned houses all the time, looking at them, checking them out, just urban exploring. And I'm always finding clothes. So there's always cotton clothes in there. You don't want to use synthetics. Make sure you do not use the synthetics, because they'll just melt and then mess up your can and whatever cotton you got in there too. So you want to make sure you got cotton. If you're not 100% sure, maybe roast that with stuff that you know isn't cotton only, and so your cotton stuff won't get damaged, and that way you'll find out. Maybe you'll get lucky, who knows. But yeah, you can always find clothing. There's always cotton clothing out there that you can cut up and use to make char cloth. Now, another thing that I found is pretty interesting, especially living here in the South, is this stuff. It's cotton. It's natural cotton. This grows all over the place down here, and it's typically not wild. It's farmed, but you can go by these farms even after harvesting, and the fields are covered in cotton that was never collected. They just leave it there, and it eventually decays back into the ground, I guess. But, they probably have enough there to make a whole other bale if they wanted to go around and pick it up. But there's always cotton in all of the fields. And, if it's zombie apocalypse, this stuff might not have been harvested. So that's kind of cool, because you can get the seeds out of it. You can take the seeds and collect those and put them in the ground and grow your own cotton. Or you can, if you're just traveling, moving through, you can go through and collect all of it, even whether the field's been harvested or not. You can fill up a bag of this stuff pretty easily. And it's just cotton. Maybe you're good with cleaning it up and making yarn or threads out of it. Some people do that. That's how they make our clothes. So that's kind of a good use for that as well. But for today, we're going to try and make some char cloth out of it. Now, I've never made char cloth out of cotton before. So what I want to do is take a good sized wad of this stuff. Now, I'll separate the seeds out. The seeds probably wouldn't hurt it, but I don't know if they would or not. So I'm just taking the seeds out altogether. I don't want to risk just burning my cotton up. And I'm going to kind of compress it. I'm going to compact it into a little, I don't know, I'm sure I can do this. Like I said, I've never tried it before, so I'm just trying to mash it down into something that might make a nice char cloth. So I want to try and roll it together until it's thick. Okay, that's kind of neat. See, when you put the can in the fire, it burns the oxygen out, and then everything that's left in there just burns. Let's try that. I'll make a few more of these and let's see how they go. These remind me of cotton balls. I haven't actually tried cotton balls either, but I imagine you could probably get cotton balls out of a pharmacy, or if you're in survival mode, you could probably collect some out from under cabinets in people's bathrooms and all that. And you're going through survival mode, trying to find canned food to keep you going. Pick up the cotton, the toilet paper tubes, and the dryer lint. people in typical survival scenarios don't look for stuff like cotton balls or dryer lint. That's just not on their radar. They're looking for food, guns, booze, gold, for whatever reason. But never these little things that they're probably going to wish they knew about somewhere down the road. Oh, and one more thing I'm thinking about cotton as well is not every place is going to have cotton, especially out in the Midwest or the mountain areas. You won't have cotton, but you'll have other things. Whoops, dropped it there. You'll have other things you can use, like cottonwood trees produce a type of cotton. I think it's very similar to this. I don't know if you can weave with it or not, but you could probably do this with it. Wad it up, collect it and wad it up. I got enough there for 2. Let's re-wad. Cattails. You could probably do something similar with cattails. I don't know if they'll produce any kind of char cloth material or not, but you know what? You just try things and see what works. No matter, I mean, if you're always in survival mode, you're trying anything and everything. Hopefully you got enough stuff to allow you to have some breathing room while you experiment. Okay, so we're going to try these homemade cotton balls out of organic, fresh grown cotton right from the field. Okay, so for our purposes here, we just created a little fire in the fire pit, which, you know, for non-survival situations is something just about anybody can do anytime, anywhere. You go to a campsite, maybe use one of the little barbecue grills. You can set up your little fire in that, make your char cloth. You know, it doesn't have to be like an elaborate whole fancy fire pit. You just make a fire. You could do it in your fireplace if you really wanted to, if you got a fireplace, but just about anybody can make a fire. Now this is assuming that you're not completely out of char cloth and all fire making materials in a survival situation. Trying to make char cloth then, it's going to be a little challenging, but that's why it's always a good idea to make char cloth ahead of time. Put it in a Ziploc baggie or pouch, however you want to make it. Little fire bundle kit, little leather kit like I make. Those kinds of things, you know, if you have it handy, then you'll always have your char cloth ready. Now what I'm going to do is put that right down in there. And in a moment here you'll see the smoke coming out the top hole. Now what we're going to do is burn that can in the fire pit until it stops smoking. Now I learned this from my uncle years ago. See the smoke starting to come out? It's going to take 5 or 6 minutes, maybe 10, I don't know. We'll just wait until the smoke finishes coming out. It depends on how much char cloth you're trying to make at any one time. But just watch that hole, watch the opening there. When it stops smoking, your char cloth is charred. Or I guess your cloth is charred. Then we're going to see what happens with the denim squares, the lamp wick, and the homemade cotton balls. Okay, we're going to take a look at it here and see how the char cloth's looking. Now to get the can out of the fire, you could probably use a couple of sticks or just smack it out of there with a stick. You want to be careful so it doesn't disintegrate, of course. But you got a little leather glove. Just whoop, grab that puppy. Sit him on the edge. Still smoking, which is a good sign. Probably want to put it in coals instead of direct fire too. That can actually take a little longer, but I don't know if my char cloth turned out or not. Let's find out. Ooh, that's smoky. Acrid. Trying to blow it out of there without inhaling it. Yeah, it looks like it all charred. I don't know if you can see down in there. It's all blackened. So we're going to let that cool down for a little while and then we'll try it out. Okay, so while we wait for the char cloth to cool down a bit, we are going to make a couple little bird's nests to put our char cloth in. So, you know, sometimes you can find this little twine. This stuff is really good. This is just some twine that I had on some packaging, something I ordered, showed up. And what I want to do is just kind of fray it. Just fray it all out like that. Yeah, let's try and unwind it. Try and make it into a little highly fibrous. Doesn't have to be pretty, you're just going to burn it. Just kind of unwind it, frazzle it, fray it, do whatever you can do. Let's see here. It's the wrong way. If you unwind it, you know, you can kind of get your fingers in there and start separating it. Alright, so there's one sample. Maybe you found some rope. Did you find some rope somewhere? No, yeah, that's not a bad idea. Kind of cut that. Use your knife if you don't have scissors. It's just rope. It's not hard to do. But you can do the same thing with this stuff. This is much. It's like several of those little twines in one. So big. You know, just carrying a piece of that with you. You could probably start 2 or 3 fires with that, just by itself. So cut sections of rope, keep 2 or 3 of them in your fire kit. You'll have like a week's worth of fire bundling going on right there. And that's, you know, that's if you don't find anything else out in nature. I've tried burning the cotton by sparking it, and it doesn't burn so well. So, you know, maybe as char cloth, that's the way to go. It'd probably burn once you had a fire going, but that's sort of not the point. Cotton's good stuff for other reasons. Let's try some of this twine here. Rope. It's kind of oily, so hopefully maybe that gives it a little combustibility as well. I don't know. Little bird's nest action here. Yeah, see? Just a piece of rope. You can start making something. We'll do a little bit better on that. Also, I got pine needles. Now, I've never made a bird's nest out of pine needles before. Birds have, but I haven't. So, taking my twine, getting that out of the way. Let's take these pine needles. Now I'm trying to bend them, crunch them, break them up into a little bird's nest shape, you know, try and form it. And that's what you'll do with the twine as well. Kind of hoping this stuff interlocks a little bit, and it's looks like it's probably a messier form of what I'm trying to do, but look at this. You can crunch up a whole bunch of this stuff. Kind of, you know, get a leaf in there, it's alright. Smolders a little bit, holds some flame. Let's try and just grunge up some of this here too. This, you know, when you get it kind of powdered like this, it's like when you use birch bark or some other dried bark. You can scrape the underside of bark from a piece of dried bark from a tree, just about any tree. Birch bark I've seen done on videos. I've never tried it myself. I don't have any birch trees around here, but I think other trees, you know, you could probably use some bark from that. But if you crunch that up, kind of put it in the middle of your bird's nest, you might have something. So we're going to experiment today with a few different types of materials for making our bird's nests. And then when we light the fire on this, we're gonna see just how well, you know, maybe a combo of that stuff might work too. You can probably always find a combination of dried material to put in your bird's nest. It smells oily. Nice. That should burn really well. So make a little bird's nest, and then we're going to try same thing but with this. Now this makes a really nice, easy bird's nest right here. Nice little friggin' lint wad. Alright. So there are 3 different types of bird's nests that we're going to use for our fire bundles. We're going to see how our char cloth is done, and if it's ready to be used, we can try lighting some fires in this. So let's set a couple of these things aside for now. Let's just try couple of deals. See how it works. Okay, for starters, here's a piece of the denim. Here's one of the cotton balls. Also stuck to some denim. The denim looks very fragile. Okay, I'm just going to say that's probably going to work, but it's probably also not going to be very happy about it. So it's going to be hard to use that, I think. Some thicker denim might be what you want. Okay, here's a couple pieces of the lamp wick. Oh, I got a cotton tumbleweed. Yeah, some of the denim didn't hold up too well, doesn't look like. So denim may not be the best choice, although I think in a pinch you probably could use denim. Let's see what happens here. It's very thin. Of course, I was using a very thin pair of jeans too. A lot of Levi's and things. They'll be a lot more, or a lot thicker material, a thicker fabric. Okay, so we got a chunk of this, right? Let's see what happens here. It's mostly just disintegrating as I'm holding it. Alright, so denim I don't think is maybe the best choice, unless you got a thicker denim, thicker cotton materials. Let's try, get my best sharp edge there. Let's try this cotton. This cotton actually looks like it stayed together really well. The natural cotton, wild cotton, turned out these little puffy cotton balls, black charred cotton, and they hold up pretty good. They stay okay. Let's try it and see what happens here. Come on. Oops. Knocked it right off of there. Alright, well, it's charring. We got a little burn out of it. Let's see what happens when we put it in the bird's nest here. We might need a bigger piece. Okay, I didn't get much out of that. Still going. Let's try the cotton wick. See if that maybe works better. Okay, so that sparked up pretty fast. See that glow? Okay, let's put that in there. Kind of curl it in. We're looking for it to just flash. Let's try some of this. All right, it's catching the wheat. It's catching the pine needles on fire. Ouch. However, hurting my cotton pieces too. Now, if you had some more combustible material, I think that could work. Okay, so pine needles do catch fire with our material. Let's throw that on the forge floor there. Alright, let's try and clean this area off here. We're going to try another bird's nest idea. Pine needles work. I wouldn't say they're the best, but they do work. Alright, this one here I'm curious about. I've never tried it. I mean, I have lit fires with this using a lighter before, but I don't know what it's going to do with. Let's try some more lamp wick. don't know what it's going to do with char cloth. Cut that right away. Alright. Put that part down there. Which it's burning. Now this stuff's probably going to have some synthetic fibers in it. You never know with lint. It is burning. It looks like if we were to put maybe some dried grasses or something else on there, we could definitely get it, get a fire going out of that. There, look at that. That's what we want. And then, you know, you can just start adding your little sticks, and I'm not going to do that on my table, but yeah. Alright, so lint and char cloth works. Bye-bye. I'm in the forge, so I can knock it to the floor. Still burning. See, and now, you can't see, I just threw the bird's nest on it. Let's take a look at that here. I just threw the pine needles on top of that. So you can get a fire going with the pine needles on top of the dryer lint, which leaves might work. Leaves mostly smolder, they don't burn so well. It's just the way that works. Okay, let's try this and see what happens. Another piece of char cloth here. My survival supply is dwindling, but that's alright. We're doing good. Let's see here. Alright. See if I can get a spark out of this here. Just like that. It lights up quick, right? That's why I like this stuff. It's hardier than denim. Seems to hold up really well. Now let's see what happens here in this oily cloth. Whoa. Okay, there it goes. Looks like the rope burns really good. You got to blow on it kind of hard, but you get the fire happening. That's kind of the important part of it. Bye-bye, rope. Alright. Okay, and there are some perfect examples why the Flint and Steel Striker are my favorite combination of fire starting methods. Because anytime you need a fire, you'll always have this. This is never going to wear out. I mean, it would take you probably a lifetime to chisel this piece of steel down to nothing. Using it every day, 2 or 3 times even. It's a pretty good, solid, thick piece of high carbon steel, and it's going to be with you a while. But like I said, get a couple of them. Keep a couple of them with you. You'll always have the ability to make fire. Keep your eye out for materials you can use to make char cloth. Thicker denim, thicker cottons. Those hot pads, I think, would probably work great. Cotton growing out in fields makes great char cloth. We just discovered that today. I've never tried it. Works great. Pine needles will light, not as easily as they will with like the dryer lint. Dryer lint is plentiful. There's more of that than you'll ever go through in a lifetime sitting around in everybody's dryers right now. Keep some of that handy. Throw pine needles on top of it. Gets your fire started bigger. Throw your little sticks on top of that. Just keep adding and build your fire up from there. It takes nothing. A little piece of char cloth, your flint and steel.